Continue with that conversation. The war in Ukraine is driving up crude oil prices. That, with a weakening rand, is driving up fuel prices in South Africa. With Russia now, of course, taking control of Luhansk and pushing further forward, there seems to be no end to that conflict. Let's discuss this even further now with Yanni Rousseau from Wits Business School. Thank you so much for your time, Yanni, and good morning to you. We've heard from the driver there saying that it's all a scam. He's a taxpayer. He doesn't understand why he cannot see the fruits of his labor. It seems more of his money is going into all these costs and increases, and he's left with peanuts. Is it all a scam, or is there more that informs the surge in fuel price hikes?
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers. In short, the current increase in the fuel price is driven by the rise in crude oil prices and the weakness in the rand. The rand is weaker in the last few weeks, and because we import crude oil and we have to pay in dollars for that, the landed rand price per liter of petrol increased substantially. At the same time, of course, we have a lot of taxes on fuel, and as a result of this, the fuel price increased over time.
Yeah, and what informs the crude oil price, Yanni?
Well, it's demand and supply on international markets. As a result of the Russian-Ukrainian war, the supply of crude oil changed, and as a result, with the same demand, the price increased. So we have to expect that with lower supply and the same demand, there will be price increases.
Right. And you therefore mentioned that in turn, it's that exchange rate, the US dollar rand exchange rate, that will inform how expensive or cheap, if ever, it is for us as South Africans. So with that being said, how important is political and economic stability in ensuring that, of course, our rand, our currency, stabilizes and it's not too costly for South Africans?
Of course, stability is important, and then our rand will not stabilize because there will not be investment for as long as we have problems with electricity supply at Eskom. So the first thing this government must get right is to sort out Eskom and make sure that we have uninterrupted electricity supply. That will stimulate investment, it will stimulate production, and as a result of that, the rand will stabilize.
Yeah. Is the fuel levy, a more sustainable relief for South Africans?
Well, if the government wants to reduce fuel levies on a sustained basis, it must raise the taxes somewhere else, either in the form of higher value-added tax, higher company tax, or higher personal income tax. Or else the government must cut its own expenditure. And I am personally in favor of the last option. In my view, there's still a lot of wastage in government expenditure. The first thing I can mention, these big motorcades with expensive black cars when politicians move around in South Africa.
Yeah. So you're saying they definitely need to cut back on some of the expenditure and costs that they themselves as government leaders are incurring. And besides, of course, with the motorcade, where else can we see a cutback? And I'm asking this because when we spoke to the health minister earlier on, Dr. Joe Patla, he says also, budgets everywhere seem to be strained. They too can't pay, healthcare, workers and officials. And that's put a strain also on the health department. So where else can the cutback be I suppose, seen?
Well, the government can get rid of non-essential, non-functioning state-owned enterprises. I've said 6 or 7 years ago, the government should simply give away SAA. Since then, it's pumped billions of rands into SAA, and now it's beginning to come to its senses, and government has now decided to give half of SAA away. Give the whole thing away because it's a drain on taxpayers. I also don't understand what's going on at the Nel. The government should disinvest from the Nel. The government should disinvest from Alexkor. Why should the government own a diamond mine of all possible things? So we need the government to go very carefully through all its expenditure and then cut accordingly. I have to add one thing, however. Each time that the petrol price goes up, the commission that banks and the financial system gets on credit card sales of fuel their commission margin goes up. It is more than 42 cents per litre today. It's going to be even higher tomorrow. And in my view, this is one area where government can engage the financial services industry to see whether the margin that they take on credit card transactions on fuel sales cannot be reduced.
A point to definitely consider there. Thank you so much, Yanni Rousseau, for joining us this morning and talking about this from the Wits Business School, the increase on what we're seeing in domestic price fuel. Big news in South Africa, so do make sure that you take note and you, of course, cushion your pockets. With that being said,